So welcome again, everyone. My name is Tufan Guven. Today's lecture is about understanding the fractal universe and its practical implications. One of the mottos in my life is try to understand what you can change and what you cannot, so that you can be happier.
You know the difference.
Well, I'm mostly focused on teaching the universal laws and how they are organized and the other things that we can change. So we can change our reality to a certain extent by controlling our emotions, behavior, and also change our reality to a certain extent, but there are some things that we cannot change, and these are considered to be the laws of the universe. And if we can understand laws of the universe, how physics, understand the physics of the laws, then we can better affect our life and how we can interact with other people and other things. So different cultures, different mystic and esoteric traditions have different perspectives on this. One of the popular ones include mind, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. And we can see how these relate to what we have been teaching so far with PlanckFire.com. For example, when we talk about mind, all is mind and everything is energy. The universe is mental. And the second one, correspondence, actually relates to the physics of fractality, as above, so below, reflecting concurrent qualities. And this is about reflection of things. So the small pieces, they look alike like the whole, and the whole looks like the small pieces. So the fractality is explained here. And the third one is the vibration. Nothing is stationary and everything vibrates. And we talk a lot about the sine wave and the composition of sine waves, how they meet with each other at specific longitudinal nodes and create the implosive field effect. A fourth one is the polarity. Everything is double and everything has its opposite, thus extremes meet. And we know the constructive wave interference is exactly on the phi, and the opposite is the octave frequency. It's the doubling, the exact opposite of negentropy. Rhythm, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides, all things rise and fall, just like the waves of the sine waves. And if it reaches to a specific point, it reaches to the climax point of this longitudinal array, where the perfect charge compression is available at that point. Cause and effect. Every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause, and gender. So we will look into these principles, how they correspond to the fractal field sciences. Now, fractality has two qualities, which is self-similarity and repetition, as I explained a few minutes ago. So self-similarity means the pieces of the system has to be similar to each other, and it has to be also similar to the whole, and the whole has to be similar to its pieces. And repetition, it has to repeat itself. We can see lots of examples in nature, and fractality was popularized by specifically Benoit Mandelbrot. And while he was working at IBM, he was working on a specific internal communication problem. And he found that the error had a specific unusual quality, having a fractal nature. So as he zoomed in to the error, he noticed that the pattern was repeating itself. And from that understanding, he developed the formula of a fractal system. And we also find this also in ancient understandings. The Cantor set from 1883 very much represents the computerized error that Benjamin Mandelbrot found, where you can see on the top. So as he zoomed in to the error, he saw a repeating pattern in smaller scales. And this is how he developed the fractal formulas, and thus developing the famous Mandelbrot set. There are different fractal mathematical patterns and geometries. There is the Sierpinski fractal triangle, there is the co-star, and many more. And we know that in computer programming, you can repeat the fractal patterns similar to each other infinitely. But in nature, they tend to repeat themselves until the molecular level with small differences in similarity, but they all look alike, as you can see in the picture here. And the cauliflower is one of the psychedelic examples that we can find in nature. Many more examples from plant life, landscape, and even the human system. You know, our body is composed of fractal systems. Starting from the right, there's the neurons in our brain, lungs, circulation system, and the lymphatic system. They all represent the fractal patterns. These are also dendritic systems. And the ancients understood that our universe was composed of fractal systems, and they implemented this understanding to their temples. Islamic culture has developed complex mathematical, geometric, fractal systems. And starting with the Abbasi Caliphate, and then Seljuks and the Ottoman Empire, as time passed, they developed more and more developed complex mathematical fractal systems. And that also represents the evolution in consciousness as well. As the geometries develop, the evolution of consciousness also developed. We see the fractal philosophy understanding in many esoteric and mystic traditions. In Sufism, there is a concept of the unity of being, which encourages people to look for God inside oneself and perceive the whole universe, including oneself, as the reflection of God. As we talked about the fractal qualities, this represents the repetition of self-similarity, where he says, looking for God inside oneself and perceive the whole universe, including oneself, as the reflection of God, a self-similar system. On a cosmic scale, from the fractal and holographic universe perspective, this means that each part of the world contains the whole of the universe as it's hidden inside each part. In Sufism, the divine secret is the realization of the unity of the God, human, the universe. The creator and the creation and everything is actually one. It has no beginning and no end. The whole universe and the human being is God's representation in different forms. The universe and the human being is a perception that reflects God's similarity, basically. Other examples from other esoteric traditions, including Hermetism, the Emerald Tablet says, that which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the wanting. And as modern technology evolves, we see the resemblance of this understanding in physics and sciences. Now, we already know that the neurons very much look alike the superclusters, and the plasma interactions between the superclusters. Actually, there is a famous study done in Brandeis University where they examined first the neurons of mice and noticed that the qualities of the neural connections are almost identical to the qualities of the connections of the superclusters in the universe. And this brings us the question, is the universe part of a larger mind? And more interestingly, there was a paper published about consciousness in the universe is scale invariant and implies an event horizon of the human brain, which talks about the connectedness of human consciousness in different scales, just like a torus donut. So Dan Winter elaborately explains consciousness is self-re-entry. So imagine yourself sitting at the center of a toroidal field and receiving all information and remembering it with perception. So consciousness is self-re-entry, we suggest. And in universe, there are different levels of consciousness, different scales. As it was said, it's scale invariant in the universe. As we align with different levels of understanding, as we align with different intentions, we align with different toroidal plasma fields at the center. And that alignment, which is one of the great functions of the universe, brings that reality in our lives, if we can understand the physics and apply that understanding and apply that alignment with our practical movements in our life, with the decisions that we take in our life.
The key was non-destructive self-reentry also. By non-destructive means surviving compression becomes shareable.
Right. So it is an intelligent universe, and if we can establish the connection between the higher plasma beings and ourselves, we can, I believe, very easily align our intentions with what we want in this life by aligning our toroidal fields with the larger toroidal fields or plasma fields. And in the universe, from micro to micro, we can see the fractal principles in different scales, starting from the subatomic particles. This one displays the fractal connections on the molecular level. Scientists discover fractal patterns in a quantum material. A New Scientist magazine made the cover Fractal Universe, and we do very strongly suggest that we are living in a fractal universe. We can see this in mathematics of an organization of games like Minecraft. We can see fractal formulas that are implemented in the games. And there is a famous game, No Man's Sky, that I used to give as an explanation in my presentation. So the No Man's Sky game was launched like around 10 years ago. And in this game, there are more than 18, quadrillion something planets of No Man's Sky. All planets have different flora, fauna, and different beings living, different universal physics rules in their atmosphere. And one thinks, how can an engineer develop so many different formulas and understandings in a game at the same time? And the simple answer is using fractal equations. It's like, let's say he builds a solar system with a specific formula, and then he says, okay, next solar system is going to be +1 of this and ×2 of this, and then he just forwards it to all universe, and he automatically creates a structure, a self-similar, a fractal structure with different beings inside. So golden ratio perfected fractal phase conjugation is the fundamental formula of this universe. So as explained by Dan Winter, planckfire.com, and this is the electric origin, cause and mechanism of all centripetal and self-organizing forces, including and especially gravity, life force, perception, bliss, entanglement, end of addiction, ADD, alphabet and symbol color. And this is why we are focusing on the physics of this understanding, because with the leadership of Dan, we are lucky to be developing all these health technologies by using the same understanding, same fractal formula, starting from the Planck constant, multiplying it with the exponents of golden ratio, and putting it into applicable, commercial, successful technologies like fire ray, Planck fire, plasma fire, and many more. The golden ratio is a very intriguing subject, has an intriguing history. So first, Egyptians have used it in the design of the Great Pyramids, and then Sumerians have used it, the golden ratio, in some of their tablets, including the tablet of Shamash. We'll talk about this later, where you can see exact 5 proportions embedded within each other in one system. Just cannot be a coincidence. And then Greeks have used it in the design of Parthenon, and Plato, in his views on the natural science and cosmology presented in his Timaeus book, considered the golden section to be the most binding of all mathematical relationships and the key to the physics of the cosmos. Very important. And Euclid, in Elements, referred to dividing a line at the 0.618 point as dividing a line in the extreme and mean ratio. This gave rise to the use of the term mean in the golden mean. He also linked it to the construction of a pentagram. And then Leonardo da Vinci, during Renaissance period, discovered the Leonardo Fibonacci discovered the unusual properties of the numerical series that now bears his name, the famous Fibonacci sequence. Then Leonardo da Vinci provided illustrations using the golden mean extensively for a dissertation published by Luca Pacioli, commissioned by the famous Medici family in 1509, entitled The Divine Proportion. And then Johannes Kepler, in 1600, discoverer of the elliptical nature of the orbits of the planets around the sun, also made mention of the divine proportion. And very basically, golden ratio technically is a relationship between two systems where a harmony is automatically achieved by dividing it or separating it from the 0.618 point. By doing so, you can get a harmonic resonance between all 3 systems through a golden ratio. So the ratio remains the same if you divide that from that point. But if you use another ratio to divide, you won't get that harmonic resonance because the ratio will not be the same. Let's say if you cut it from 0.5, you will not get the same ratios between the systems. Only golden ratio allows this function of containing the perfect resonance. And this was extensively covered and used by Renaissance artists. One of them is Michelangelo, the creation of Adam. Leonardo da Vinci's John the Baptist. And we have many more. I'm just putting a few here. And the same understanding was implemented in the construction of ancient sites, including many of the churches around the world. So this is just a few that we were able to measure with the harmonizer phi ruler, which is also available here. Thank you. So you can see that all churches that we were able to measure have extensive golden ratio proportions everywhere. They were obsessed about it. Wow. And it's no coincidence. They are just not teaching this, that's all. You can see that even between the distribution of the columns, there is exact golden ratio, so that the intention and the spiritual work that is done there has the perfect echo, has the perfect communication between dimensions. We can see this in ancient temples. The one on the top is the temple of Apollo in Didyma, Turkey. The one at the bottom is Parthenon, Athens. So you see one side is 0.618, the other side is 1.618, gives the exact ratio of an inner rectangle of the dodecahedron. If you can see the rectangle between the tip of my fingers here, this is the same structure, same ratio as the temples here, this exact rectangle. And in acoustics as well, this has been measured as the fundamental distribution to cancel out all the unwanted standing waves. So these are called Stradivarius phi chambers. And we can see that if you use golden ratio based on resonant chambers, based resonant chambers, you can suppress the formation of unwanted standing waves and reflection by the use of golden proportions. This is very important because we can scientifically see the importance of the golden ratio structure of a space by just eliminating the unwanted frequencies.
Which is to say, eliminating destructive interference, which is the entire point. So what's left is constructive interference.
Yes, very instructive. And we are basically taking the same understanding and applying to our technologies here.
So basically there was implosion in there.
Yes. And this is a chart that displays distribution of charge versus isolation. Sorry, distribution of charge versus isolation. Where you can see the maximum constructive bioactive charge distributing point at 1.618 on the top part, and the bottom part represents the maximum destructive charge isolating point at 2, which is the octave frequency. If you want to say a couple of words about this, Dan, how you have found out this.
This was many years ago, but we just emulated if you had a relatively infinite number of waves interfering, and you do that at each different ratio. When you get to golden ratio, you get the max net constructive interference. When you get to the octave square root of 2, you get to max destructive interference, which means that the waves are then frozen and can't move, because if they do, which is why ice crystals are hex and cubic, and why every living protein is pent, you see. So it's not that the octave is evil, it's just that it's used for different purposes. To isolate charge, what ice does, or the pent golden ratio is distribute charge, what light does.
Thank you. We just talked about how a relationship between two systems was achieved by dividing a system from the 0.618 point. Now, if we apply this to multiple relationships, we get the constructive wave interference. So we have multiple relationships, all including arithmetic and geometric mean. If we can create a structure where golden ratio repeats itself, we can automatically get both the arithmetic and geometric mean at the same time. And golden ratio is the only ratio that allows the containment of both means in the universe of mathematics, thus allowing the only ratio to allow charge distribution, adding and multiplying constructively. So in a wave system, we can visualize this as multiple waves meeting at the perfect golden points to create the perfect implosion, perfect charge compression. So in our sacred geometry poster, we try to define this as phi is the only ratio which allows wavelengths to both add and multiply constructively than winter. We can see this in a star system where you can place the star geometry inside a pentagon and repeat this pattern going towards the center, and you get the perfect charge collapse, perfect constructive wave interference at center. So if you want to build your altar and meditation place, and if you want to focus on a charge compression perfect implosive place, you can build it by arranging the golden ratio relationships by taking this model and arranging it in your space.
Literally, this is what focus is.
Yes. And this is also present in the solar system between the relationship of Venus and Earth. As Venus and Earth orbit the Sun, they create this 5-petal flower pattern over an 8-year period. And many examples in our solar system, spiralsolaris.ca includes the mathematical understanding of this. You can check it. And we have it in the human body, everywhere, on our fingers, legs, the full body, on our face.
Just to go back to the solar system slide, sorry, but just, for how many years did they know that golden ratio was the dominant geometry of orbital mechanics?
Right.
Why did it not occur to them that that's what's stabilizing or causing gravity? Hello?
Yes, through the Fibonacci sequence.
Literally, implosion is gravity.
Right. We see it in our brainwaves, flamingmind.com, iThrive.com by Dan and Patrick here. We'll talk about it later. And also in our DNA. DNA has the perfect golden ratio proportions. They don't only have the golden ratio proportions, they are also perfectly tuned to the Planck scale, 21 angstrom to 34 angstrom. They are perfectly tuned to Planck scale.
It was Tufan who helped find that part.
Thank you. With your help. So the number of harmonics in your DNA fractal antenna ascend by golden ratio when the spin density braid implosion enables that compression to be implosive, negentropic, and centripetal.
Exactly.
So golden ratio is also found in quantum physics, which brought the Nobel Prize. It's being used in nanotechnology, so it's everywhere. It's in the hydrogen radii as discovered by Dan. And our famous formula actually represents this understanding by simply taking the Planck constant, Planck distance, Planck length, Planck mass, and just simply multiplying that with the exponents of golden ratio, we get the most critical biological systems, metabolic frequencies, as well as the rotational periods of the heavenly bodies. For example, 3 exact hydrogen radii, ADP, ATP, photosynthesis, DNA dimensions, Schumann period, HRV, Venus Earth year, precision of the equinox, galactic year, and we have many more at alfie.link, like probably more than 100 relationships, only tuned to Planck scale.
That chart was before we added the DNA.
That's right.
Just below.
Should have updated it,
Yeah.
right?
It's a little update.
Yeah. So basically, to get more into it, there are 2 specific forces in the universe that relate to this matter. Is the centrifugal and centripetal forces. One is the implosive force, and the other one is the explosive force. We can see this in water much easily. And in our technologies, we mostly focus on the implosive force of this understanding. And yeah, as I said, we can see this in a whirlpool, in the black holes. So black holes are technically a place where the transduction of energy and dimension happens.
And the tragedy of modern physics, they don't seem to have a clue why anything is centripetal. Consciousness, gravity, life force. I mean, what a profound problem.
Right, especially the catenoid, which is the colorful area here, the part inside the toroidal topology, toroidal field, which has the negative curvature, has this magical function. As it gathers the energy, information in a constructed wave, it helps transfer the energy from one dimension to another. And if we can apply this understanding to our human body, we can see that the human body consists of multiple layers of toroidal fields in the form of a twister. By aligning ourselves with the higher principles, we can basically heal ourselves by rotating that charge field, as we would take the higher dimensional energy to our reality by simply turning it upside down.
Could I do just 5 seconds?
Of course.
Yep. So just to say, where we want to go later in the day is the up and down portion of this inertia going perpendicular to the center. This inertia here we call transverse EMF, but the amount of that inertia is that converted and going directly towards center, implosive, longitudinal. So the conversion done in the vortex from the transverse up and down, which does not squeeze, to the longitudinal compression towards center, that's the conversion we're talking about all day, from transverse EMF to longitudinal. So later in the day we talk about how you see auras. This is where we're going.
Right, right. And the energy on the toroidal topology always travel in spirals. It makes 3 spirals until it reaches to its original position. And we know that in universe, the energy moves in spirals.
And that's how it's converted from transverse to longitudinal.
Right. Discover magazine asks, why is our universe filled with spirals? Because the qualities of the universal energy are, 1, it has to be compressible, perfect compression. 2, it has to behave like a fluid. And 3, it stores inertia when it rotates. And 4, in certain geometries, fractal conjugate, etc., it appears to self-organize and become intelligent and alive. And more details are present in Dan Winter's latest books. Another example from a new planet being born, an exoplanet around the young star AB Aurigae. So this could be the first direct evidence of early planet formation in a young stellar disk, also reminding us the qualities of the universal energy. So these are the basic qualities of the universal energy that we are also building our technologies upon.
So read the list on the bottom. Yes, compressible.
Compressible, behaves like a fluid, stores inertia when it rotates. In certain geometries, fractal conjugate, it appears to self-organize and become intelligent alive, as we have gone through it in the previous slide.
Oh, sorry. And behaves like a superfluid is then the centerpiece of the latest layer of physics, fractalgut.com. So understanding the superfluid is the key.
Right. And this principle was first technically implemented by Victor Schauberger, father of implosion science. And Dan Winter just took the same understanding and just perfected it with perfect scaling in the super imploder system. Fractalwater.com,
Yeah.
imploder.com.
Yeah, theimploder.com is now fractalwater.com. There's a whole new layer upgrade of these technologies, fractal water.
Right. So, because specifically in the implorer.com, the idea is to create the perfect compression through a flowing form, liquid form. And that perfect compression automatically gathers the charge and allows the water to become more soluble, increase the solubility, right?
And the other thing to mention is, as the biodynamic people knew, a little bit of rock powder, now the water is piezo, and then the vortex is 10 times more powerful for biology and all that stuff.
So if you try to visualize this perfect spot as a vortex form, just take that perfect whirlpool and place it along these specific frequency meeting arrangement points where the waves agree to meet at the most perfect points, and they create this implosive effect where the most critical biological and metabolic mechanisms, frequencies happen at those exact longitudinal points, nodes. So basically, a fractal field based on golden ratio breeds charge, becomes a bioactive field. And I was talking about the tablet of Shamash, the sun god. The Sumerians, first developed the system in their tablet by arranging the tablet exactly with golden proportions. So this just cannot be a coincidence, including all these systems in one structure. So you can see 3 perfect golden ratio proportions creating a perfect spiral. And it's not only that it has the perfect ratio, it is also perfectly tuned to the Planck scale. How did they know?
And the British foot defining sacred length because of charge collapse. The British foot is in there, right?
Right, exactly. The British foot is on the left. You can see 30.4 centimeters is the exact British foot, which is Planck length times golden ratio to the power of 164.
Exactly. And so how did they know that charge collapse was sacred dimension? Hello.
Right. So ancients knew.
They knew they had to implode.
Yes. So sacred space defined by implosive charge collapse. 1 foot, exactly 30.37 centimeters.
I'm sorry I jumped ahead.
That's all good, all good. And we can see the same scaling system in smaller places on the tablet of Shamash. And you are able to measure this with the Planck tuner, which is available here. We'll talk about it. And you can also apply the perfect golden ratio spiral, obviously, on the tablet of Shamash, which is also available here. And I later realized that I thought this was the only tool for Planck measurement that's focused on the exponents of golden ratio. But actually, the tablet of Shamash can also be used as a ruler. You just take out the pieces and apply it to places and see whether it fits the ratio or not. So it's both the same, basically. And with the Planck tuner, if you get the alignment right, you will get the perfect distance that tunes the Planck scale. And if you want to arrange your artwork or architectural project based on the Planck scale, you can use this tool as a navigation.
And the name Shamash, Shem, I will raise a Shem unto the Lord, means access to the black hole. So would you like an access to the black hole? This is how.
So Planck set includes many of the understanding of this science, including the Planck, and you can find it at geometricmodels.org. And also, during the Eastern Roman Empire, they also knew how to reach the Planck scale, and they implemented this in their coronation ritual. You will see this marble structure on the left, where they would do their coronation ritual on. And I have discovered that the diameters, the most common diameters of the circles, they perfectly align with different Planck scales here.
Call your local phase conjugator today. That's a yellow page there.
Right.
Diameter.
And lately, Dan and Mark Warburg developed the perfect fractal God theory, where combines the perfect understanding of the unified field. And this is the time I leave this place to Dan to explain for 5 minutes what this is about, and then we will conclude.
So we're very excited because, PlanckFire.com, we had, don't even forget, we had shown about 200 physical variables, also with the help of metric at Elphi.link. So we knew about 200 physical variables were predicted by Planck times golden ratio. And then Mark Rohrbaugh, who had spent half his life studying proton to electron radius, my partner, he's very advanced field effect engineer for integrated circuits, Mark Rohrbaugh, fractalgut.com. He was studying one day and he had predicted newly why the diameter of the proton was simply a superfluid vortex tornado, and he new equation to describe the self-organizing vortex that defines what a proton is. This was his life dream. He was so excited. And then he was meditating one day. He said, oh, I think I need to try Dan Winter's idea. And he multiplied powers of golden ratio times the proton radius. Would you believe the frequency of the cosmic background microwave radiation, one of the biggest mysteries in all physics? Why is the universe vibrating to a very particular frequency, the cosmic background microwave frequency? Hello? It's in tune with the proton diameter by golden ratio. The whole universe is vibrating perfectly to the diameter of the proton because of golden ratio, in Planck, basically. So then another about 150 profound physical variables. And then one day he realized that Grok 4, the most advanced physics AI on the planet, just told him, oh, you just tripped over the top unified field theory on the planet. It's so fun. Anyway, there's 100 papers at fractalgut.com. And if you show it to your local physics teacher, they really should fall off their chair. We'll talk more about it later, but it's so cool because we now have the absolute best. We took Planck Fire into the top level physics anywhere on the planet. And so it really, anyway, I'm happy about it. We'll talk more later.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining. As we are late, I'm going to conclude now. And if there are any questions, maybe short questions, we take one or two.
Any questions, advice?
Why the proton over any other?
Well, Mark had been working with Nassim Haramein,
Dan.
their old friends, and of course, Mark had just predicted the proton to electron radius, but the proton is so fundamental to everything in physics. It all starts with a hadron, the proton. So he figured out that if you predict the diameter of the self-organizing tornado vortex, which is the proton, based on the inertia of the superfluid of charge from which everything is made, now you know how the proton is built. That's what Mark's new information was. And the proton is everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere. So then we got two things now that scale the universe. One is Planck, two is the proton. And we got both of those, a complete, powerful, compelling unified field theory just pops out like 100 different other physical variables, equations. And some of that physics, I have to admit, I'm an electrical engineer. I'm actually not a physicist. So some of that physics Mark will be describing. And Mark will be presenting here virtually on Saturday night. So to be continued.
Oh boy. I have a question.
Please.
Dan was asking how would they know often about the golden ratio,
How would
the
the ancients?
Sumerians.
How would the ancients? Yes.
Well, I have read about the theories that over the 40-something million years the Earth has been on the universe, there have been many times when it was distracted down to the cell stage. And it had, maybe in the past, there were so many civilizations
Yes.
that have been more advanced than ours, then they were distracted to the cell stage, then they came on. But during that time, maybe some things remained.
Yes.
Obviously, right.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Like
that
Planck and the
is-
proton.
That is how they knew about the
Yes.
golden ratio.
We had something
Definitely.
in common.
We agree, definitely.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
We all have
Thank
that
you.
in common.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Maxwell.
Yes, could you describe in more detail what a superfluid is?
Well, This has become a popular concept in physics. Actually, I have to say, Nassim Haramein has also been teaching about the universe as a superfluid. The fundamental problem was, what is the universe made of? Well, call it the ether. The ether is actually a name for a superfluid, and that superfluid is named charge. And when that charge is compressed versus rarefied, we call it plus and minus charge. And when that charge rotates, it stores inertia called mass. When the charge rotates, it has a period, the only definition of time. So if you start with a superfluid, you understand everything else. And superfluid means infinitely connected. It's fun. Okay, so
Thanks, everyone.
thank you. We had some fun.
Our next presentation is Patrick Bodie.
Yeah, so we take what?
So we take 10 minutes,
Good.
and then we'll have our lecture with Patrick. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
You said 5 minutes, you did it in 2. Yeah.
All right.